Hello, welcome to our new segment called Super Sheriff Stories. I'm here with Officer McGlothlen, and we just have a couple questions for you. What is your best experience as an officer?
Oh, that's a tough question. Honestly, I can't think of like a very specific one. I think I'd say 9 times out of 10 every day I come to work, I have a lot of really good experiences. So I think it'd be pretty hard to narrow one down. I think if I had to choose an answer for that question, though, I think the biggest thing is, every day, us as law enforcement, we come to work knowing that we are going to be tackling the worst of the worst things that normal society doesn't see. And I think it's good knowing that I can come to work and knowing that I'm going to make a difference in hopefully at least one person's life that day and take a small step of kind of making the world a better place. And I think that's something that I would say is a good experience that I can relate to every day coming to work.
Great answer. I don't think any civilians could do your job like I couldn't.
I tell people when I put on the uniform, I'm a law enforcement officer, but the second I go home, I'm just like everybody else, It's nothing special, but it's something that I enjoy to do.
And after that, what would be your worst experience or scariest?
We definitely run into a lot of scary things, stuff that's definitely uncomfortable. I know when I was first in my training phase of becoming a sheriff, starting to do traffic stops and things like that, it was a little nerve-wracking, pulling somebody over. You never know what you're going to run into, but I wouldn't say it's a routine now, but it's a little more comfortable. If I had to choose one thing specifically, I think probably types of calls along those domestic assaults where we're dealing with people or families involved with assaulting each other, or any kind of death scene where somebody's family member they have found that is deceased, or any kind of car accident where there's injured parties involved. I think those are generally the hardest types of calls. Not only you're seeing stuff that the normal person doesn't see, but there's a lot of moving parts to keep track of, a lot of information to collect. So not all of them are bad, but I would say those are probably some of the less enjoyable calls that we go to.
Yeah. Have you ever regretted making an arrest?
Oh boy. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Usually if we're arresting somebody, we've got probable cause to arrest them, so that means they probably need to go to jail. But it's something that I don't necessarily enjoy doing. I don't like taking somebody's constitutional rights away and confining them to a cell at one point. But I think in the grand scheme of things, or the overall picture, it's something that's necessary to kind of keep the balance in the community and keep the bad guys locked up, for lack of better terms.
Yep. I don't know if you know the exact stat, but how many arrests have you made?
Oh gosh. So I've only been sworn law enforcement for just over a year now, and I would say ballpark maybe 25, 30 people-ish, depending if they got warrants or not or anything like that.
All right, now we have a few questions that aren't really related to being a sheriff. What's your favorite food?
Oh, come on, that's a tough one. I really enjoy food. In my free time, I do a lot of cooking. So a small side story that before this, I used to be a career fireman in Aberdeen, South Dakota. So as one of the new firemen, my job was always to cook food for the guys, make sure we had meals ready, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 24 hours. And so I definitely learned a lot about cooking. So in that time, I would say at home, if I was going to cook, definitely like barbecue. I'm always putting something on the smoker, whether that's some rack of ribs, pork shoulder, or even just like smoking a pizza. Those are really good. Take like little $5 pizzas from Walmart and smoke them. Turns out amazing. I'd say if I'm going out to eat though, definitely like like Mexican nachos with beef on them, you know, like shredded beef,
Yep, those are good.
or some hot wings, like buffalo hot wings with some ranch. Yeah.
How long do you put that pizza on in the smoker?
The pizza. All right, so I'll go in. This is a. You go to Walmart and you buy like one of them Jack's pizzas or little Tostino's pizzas, and you go outside, get your smoker up to like 250, not very warm, and put your frozen pizza on there, and let it just kind of like cheese melt, let it bake a little bit, so it gets that smoky flavor. Then after about like 20 minutes, you crank it up to like 400 like you would normally in an oven, and then you let it finish off till it gets nice and crispy.
We'll have to try that.
Yeah.
I like the pizzazz.
All right. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color? Oh, blue. Definitely like blue. I wear a lot of blue. It's yeah. I'd say second closest is like shades of gray or something like
What
that.
about tan?
Tan? Oh, because I'm wearing a tan uniform. I mean, I do own a lot of tan now, so I suppose you could add that to the list.
All right. What's your favorite sport to watch or play in high school?
I think probably to watch would be football. That's something I always watched growing up. And oh gosh, as far as to play, so I didn't do very many sports in high school. I did track and field briefly in high school, but in college when I went to SDSU, now y'all are gonna think I'm a nerd for this, but I was on the collegiate bowling team at SDSU for a short time. So I would probably say that's one of my funner sports, if you call it. I think it's a sport, but depends on what you're doing. So
I like Wii bowling, in case anyone wanted to know that.
Wii bowling's fun.
So what's your favorite football team then?
Packers all the way.
Ew. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
fist bump.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm a diehard Packers fan, and
Yep.
a weird story behind that. So when I was growing up, I never had a football team. It was always like all my friends in like 3rd and 4th grade, they all had like the Vikings or the Bears or like the locals like the Huskers or the Hawkeyes. And my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Wilson, I remember she had one little cubby in her room that was just all decked out in Packers stuff, just Packers, Packers, Packers. And I remember one day I thought, because she was my favorite teacher at the time, and I was like, you know what? She likes the Packers, so I'm gonna like the Packers. And ever since then, it's stuck.
Nice. What's your favorite game?
Like board game, video games.
Either one, video game or board games.
Oh gosh. We'll go with video games. I do a little bit of computer game, not a whole lot. My friends are into that. I think most of the time I play my Xbox though in my free time. I would say my favorite one is probably the Forza Horizon series of games. It's kind of like
Yeah, those are fun.
yeah, you should know what it is.
Yep.
It's kind of like a Grand Theft Auto open world style game, but racing.
Mm-hmm. What was your first car?
Oh, my first car. Bring me back to high school here, like 6 years ago. So sophomore year of high school, I got my first car. It was a 1981 Chevy K20, which is a 3/4 ton Chevy. And my dad still owns it to this day, but he bought it in 1983. And it was a surplus, like retired electrical truck, like a lineman's truck, and it was like a neon yellow colored and no box on it. So he bought it and he drove that for a long time. And then once we moved from Missouri up to Sioux City, he kind of retired that and put a snowplow on it and made it like our farm truck essentially. And probably my 7th grade year, the transmission cooler lines underneath the hood blew while I was plowing snow. So it caught on fire and burned all the electrical. So it sat for a really long time. And, you know, you get to that freshman, sophomore, you just don't want to start driving, hanging out with your friends. So I told my dad, I'm like, hey, like, let's fix the old Chevy. Like, I want to drive it and everything. So little by little, we fixed it, got all the wiring redone. And I drove that sophomore year stock as it was. And So the snowplow we put on it was like one of them heavy-duty Meyer plows, and it totally just broke the front springs on it. They were so worn out, so the truck sat at an angle. And so we looked at getting new springs for it, and come to find out, a 4-inch lift kit for the pickup was like $200 cheaper than getting new stock springs. So, you know, me being the 16-year-old kid I was, I'm like, oh no, let's lift it.
Yeah.
It'll look cool in the parking lot with all the other kids. So we lifted it, put some 35s on it, and at this point it still had some body work that needed to be done, so we totally stripped it down, redid all the body work on it, painted it right in the driveway. I got all my friends at school saying how cool it was and everything. And then we took some of my dad's metal fabbing skills and stuff that I learned in welding class in high school, and we made a custom front bumper for it, threw a winch and some off-road lights on it, and we made a headache rack on the back that held the toolbox, and put some of those big dune buggy lights on it and some CB whips.
Cool.
Made it look real cool. So that's what I drove in high school. Me and my buddies had lifted trucks, so we always used to park in what we called a redneck row in the back.
Oh, yeah. 2 more questions.
Okay.
What was your first job?
Oh, my first job. So, little backstory of that. My dad used to work for L&L Builders in Sioux City, and in 07 he went on his own and opened his own company called Advanced Structures. And he did a lot of like subcontracting and material sales. So I was like 14 at the time, and I would always tag along with him to job sites after school and stuff. And pretty soon, you know, you get to the age you start wanting money for gas and go hang out with friends, buy food. So I conned him into letting me clean up the job site, so I would go pick up trash or, you know, help him do this miscellaneous stuff that a 14-year-old could do on a construction site. And I think he paid me like $7 an hour for it. So I guess that was my first unofficial job. But once I got old enough to actually apply for a job, I think it was 15, I worked at the KOA campground in North Sioux. And I did a lot of just random stuff like mowing and painting and checking campers in, that kind of thing. It was a fun job, first real experience of work for your paycheck and stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Last question. What was your coolest cop story?
Oh gosh, I've got a lot of cool stories. I'd say I have to pick one though that I can distinctly remember. It was, I think, a week after I graduated from field training, and I'm sitting out in the county. I think it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, just typing up some reports, and all of a sudden a burglary alarm comes in. So instantly, I'm still new, so instantly I'm like, oh crap, here it is, let's go. Like, get all hyped up and everything. And I think that was my first time by myself running lights and sirens through the county. And I can remember, you know, pulling out of the field approach I was sitting in and flipping the lights on, hitting the siren, hauling down the road, and I'm thinking to myself, man, this is it. This is what I've worked so hard for, going to the police academy, getting through field training. And it was cool to have that feeling of I did it. Mm-hmm. And then on the other hand, I'm thinking to myself, oh crap, I did it, and now I'm on my own. I got to handle this. So I think that was one of the cooler moments in my career so far that I can remember that kind of made an impact on me.
Cool. All right, then we're gonna have you sign our wall back here.
Sweet.
Can you resolve with me? Okay.
There you go.
Well, thanks for joining our segment. We're gonna do a little short game here. Raise your hand if you've been pulled over by the person sitting next to you.